So for those that don't know, cortisol is the stress hormone, and in small doses and in moderation, it ain't a problem. For example purposes, it's cortisol that gets you up first thing in the morning. In a fight or flight situation, when you need to act, it's cortisol that gets you to do that. So in those situations, cortisol is not a problem. The problem with cortisol is when it is chronic, meaning when it is high and elevated for prolonged periods of time. And the side effects of cortisol, when it is there for prolonged periods of time, isn't pretty. So think anxiety, think muscle loss and fat gain, think a weakened immune system. All those things ain't good for a man. So let's get into the video and talk about 7 things that you can be doing that naturally lowers cortisol levels. I'm just going to be honest with you from the get-go, and that is, I'm not going to be talking too much about sleep in this video. And the reason why is that I've already done a video explaining the benefits of deep sleep. So what I'll do for you is put a link in the description so you can check that video out. Anyway, sleep is one of the best things you can do, basically, just to de-stress. And study after study after study backs this up. Well, I'm going to take this a little bit further and say that you probably don't even need to read the studies, because you probably know from personal experience how you feel when you're sleep deprived and how you feel after a good night's sleep. I know myself personally that when I'm sleep deprived, I tend to be ratty, moody, and irritable. I'm just not myself. Contrast that to when I've had a good night's sleep and I just feel much, much better. And the beauty of sleep, right, is the financial investment is super, super low. All you really need is a floor and a sleeping bag. The reason why this is number 2 is because laughing, just like sleep, is free. You don't need to pay anything to laugh. And again, you probably don't need to read studies on the benefits of laughing, because you probably already know this from personal experience. Just think back to a time where you laughed so hard that your stomach was hurting. My guess is you probably felt good in that moment. You probably didn't feel stressed. And you know what? I get it, because of the stresses of modern day life, especially when you're an adult, sometimes you can just forget to have a laugh. But there's things that you can do. For example purposes, you can watch stand-up comedy. Watching 60 minutes of stand-up comedy is not time wasted. It's an investment in your health, because you laughing your head off for those 60 minutes is going to make you feel good and it's going to de-stress you. Even better, if you hang around with people in the real world, I'm not talking about the internet, I'm talking about the real world, that are just generally funny, have a sense of humour, and don't take life too seriously. Find ways to laugh every single day. Physical exercise is really a double-edged sword, because when it is done properly and in moderation, it will de-stress you. It will get them endorphins moving around your body, so you'll just feel better about yourself. However, pick the wrong forms of exercise, do too much of it, and it will do the opposite. It will stress you out. And the really, really good example of this is, let's say you've got a guy who works super long hours and the job in itself is super stressful. The worst thing that you could do for that guy is put him on a powerlifting program, because lifting super, super heavy weights is just going to stress him out even more. He probably needs to be doing lighter forms of exercise, such as yoga and walking. Yoga and walking tend to de-stress you. So the word personal in personal training really matters here. And what studies show is that endurance training, so think long distance running, ramps up cortisol production. So what I do personally is I just avoid exercises like that. I just don't do it. For most people, the sweet spot is 2 to 3 days a week of strength training and walking every day. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this because let's be honest, coffee tastes so damn good and smells so nice. But here's the thing, caffeine can ramp up cortisol production. There's a reason why they put it in pre-workouts. It's because it works. It gets you buzzed up and it gets you going. And to be fair to coffee, it ain't all doom and gloom because there are some benefits to consuming coffee. For example purposes, it can help with bowel movements. So it's basically cleaning out your system. Not a bad thing. According to some research, it can help with diseases like Alzheimer's and type 2 diabetes. Again, not a bad thing. It's full of antioxidants. Again, not a bad thing. The problem is with coffee is when it is abused because at the end of the day, it is a drug. And what the general recommendations are 3 cups of coffee per day and not drinking it too late during the day so that it interferes with your sleep. Because remember, it is a stimulant. The problem is with caffeine for many people is the overconsumption of caffeine. When it is taken at the right time and had in moderation, it's generally speaking good for you. Did you know that there are certain herbs that you can take called adaptogenic herbs that are known to lower cortisol levels? So some good examples of these herbs are cordyceps, ashwagandha, and rhodiola rosea. And basically what these herbs do is just balance things out. So kind of like a thermostat. When the room gets too hot, it cools down. When the room gets too cold, it heats up. And I'm not going to talk too much about these herbs because I'm not a healthcare professional. So this is something that you need to look into and research yourself. And obviously use your common sense. If you've got any questions, speak to a qualified healthcare professional who can sort of guide you on whether these herbs are right for you or not. This probably matters more than ever before because we're working longer hours and we're also spending more time looking at screens. And depending on what sort of content you are consuming online, this can impact your cortisol levels for the better or for the worse. Let's say, for example purposes, right, you've got somebody who just consumes the news day in and day out. This is probably going to negatively affect that person's cortisol levels because let's be honest, the news, generally speaking, is just pure negativity. It's all doom and gloom. It's all the things going wrong in this world. So it's just something to be mindful. And there are things that you can do to just relax yourself. So, for example purposes, putting down on your screen time, especially before bed. Going on nature walks. Walking in nature is known to lower cortisol levels. If you can afford it, getting massages on a regular basis. There are things that you can be doing. And it's the old saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And it's so true. Yes, work hard, work smart, but just as importantly, you've also got to play hard as well. A big stressor for many people is relationships. So this could be a toxic work environment. This could be family dynamics. This could be friends and associates that you hang around with. The point I want to get across here is that you want to cut out the negativity because it affects you whether you like it or not. So this can be people that complain on a regular basis. These are not people that are looking for solutions. They just like to moan, groan, and complain. You could put your negative Nancy's in that group as well, just people that just generally have a negative outlook on life. Obviously, people that do drugs and get up to no good, you don't want to be around those types of people. In this video here that you're seeing on your screen, I basically said you are the people that you hang around with. In other words, association breeds similarity. If you're interested, feel free to check it out.